Well, if you want to understand how to reduce carbon dioxide emissions, it's important to know where they come from. And in a simple nutshell, they come from two factors. One is economic activity, and the other is technology. We use technologies in our economic activities. There has been a view for a long time that perhaps we can slow down increasing carbon dioxide emissions by slowing down our economic growth or even reducing it. In my book, The Climate Fix, I suggest that there's an iron law of climate policy, which is that we're not going to be able to reduce GDP, economic growth, as a core tool of reducing emissions, which leaves us really only one place to go, which is technology. And the technologies we would focus on are technologies of energy consumption, cars, airplanes, and energy production, which are power plants, solar panels, windmills. And if we want to both sustain economic growth, which policymakers have a commitment to, and decarbonize our economy, then technology is going to be the place we wind up. The way that we make progress on issues like agriculture or health is that we have a commitment to continually innovating. If we're going to feed a world of going on 9, 10, even more billion people, we're going to have to become more productive in how we produce crops and food. Energy is very much the same. If we're going to meet a global demand for energy of a world of 9 or 10 billion people, we're going to have to come up with new ways to provide energy. At the same time, we want to make that energy production and consumption environmentally friendly. The only way we're going to meet those goals is through a commitment to innovation. For a long time, we've thought of energy somewhat differently than we do these other areas. We think of energy as the product of some stuff that bubbles up from the ground. It's free. We pour it into our cars. It turns out that not only are fossil fuels becoming more expensive, and who knows what the gas revolution will do to that, but over the long term, the trend is going to be clear that as we have more demand, the cost will go up. And if we're going to sustain continued economic growth, the expansion of energy access around the world, we're going to need to commit to a long-term investment in energy innovation. I think we have to recognize that on the issue of the science of climate change, there's a diversity of opinion that people have. And if you look at opinion polls, it's been relatively constant over time, with one important exception. It's been constant in the sense that something like 60 to 70% of people in the United States, and similarly around the world, think that humans have an effect on the climate, and it could be pretty bad for us. There's similar numbers for the proportion of people in the United States who think we ought to be taking some action. Certainly, if you compare the issue of climate change to other issue areas, there's nothing odd or strange about public opinion that you would say that we can't act on this issue. We take action on all sorts of issues with much less public opinion. Now, the one exception that I mentioned is the fact that climate change has become a partisan issue. That if you look at Democrats and Republicans, they have wildly diverse perspectives on the issue, which is an indication of how politicized the issue is. It doesn't say anything really about the science. What it says is it's become a cultural touchstone, like evolution or abortion, that people map their values, hopes, and aspirations on. The reality is we're going to have to act on this issue in the context of existing public opinion rather than trying to get everyone to believe the same thing. This is why it's so important to appeal to a broad set of values, like the cost of energy, energy access, innovation, American jobs, and the environmental values. It's okay if people come to the issue for different reasons, and that's how you build a coalition that will last for really the decades that are needed to deal with this issue. Walter Lippmann is a famous American pragmatist. He's a columnist, writer, and he once said that the goal of politics is not to get everyone to think alike, it's to get people who think differently to act alike. And this is a bit of wisdom that I think we've lost a bit, particularly in our elite discourse in the United States, where there's a lot of battles over what people think. Climate change is probably a great example of that, where you have people characterized as alarmists on one side or deniers on the other side, with the notion is that if you don't believe a certain perspective on this, then you're not able to be in a particular group. The reality is that action on climate change is going to have to take place in the face of different views on the state of the science. This doesn't make climate any different than most other issues, whether it's economics or national security. There's a wide range of views, and we have to overcome those to actually take action. The politics in the United States, even after President Obama made a nice commitment to innovation in a State of the Union address, are really not amenable to quick action on this topic at the moment. And in the State of the Union, President Obama said that we have seen our Sputnik moment, referring to the time when the Soviet Union launched the Sputnik satellite, which really ushered in a great era of technological innovation and change in the United States. I think he was wrong about that. We haven't seen our Sputnik moment. Sputnik was a thing that was launched up into space. It was going around the Earth. When people had their radios, they could hear it beeping as it went overhead. We may yet have our Sputnik moment. When Peoria, Illinois buys a modular nuclear reactor from an Indian company or a Chinese company, and Americans begin to see, well, maybe we're falling behind in this energy technology race, that would be the Sputnik moment. But right now, we turn the lights on, everything's fine. We don't really notice that innovation actually matters. When the United States begins to realize that innovation matters, not just for climate, but for jobs, for manufacturing, for the strength of the U.S. economy, for jobs, you'll see policymakers act pretty quickly to realize they have a common interest in supporting that. And I think some of the partisan differences will fall away. We're not there yet.